Nico Collins, 80 receptions, 109 targets, 1,297 yards, 8 touchdowns. Thoughts on Nico Collins?
I really like Nico. I I really like Nico. The problem is everyone else is starting to like Nico too, and now there's not value there necessarily. So again, going back to him and Diggs, I said earlier that I could see the two of them having pretty identical stat lines here this season. And I truly mean that. So a lot of cases, I'm going to be out on Nico and draft Stephon Diggs because I can get him, at a round, the full round discount, basically. So it's not that I don't like him. I quite very much like him, actually, but it's to the point where being a savvy or trying to be a savvy drafter, right, is if I think the two are basically equal, take the value, right? Go somewhere else instead of going Nico. And then that way I don't have to stack the two Houston receivers unless I'm in a best ball and I want to try and do something like that. But kind of shuffle around there. I would probably go Drake London if I felt the same, right? If the two were on the board, and a guy who, we'll talk about Drake London here in a minute, but a guy that I would probably take just ahead of Nico, not because I necessarily like him that much more, even though I think this offense sets up well for him. We'll talk to him in a minute. It's just the value that I get on Diggs. So, again, I expect him to have a really good season. I expect him to finish inside the top 15, potentially inside the top 12. I think that's very much a possibility for him and Diggs. But I think with where you're getting him because of Diggs coming into town, I think the value is fair.
I'm with you there. I think you go one or the other. And when it comes to Collins or Diggs, and I think if you want the value, you go Diggs. If you want your guy, go your guy. But just know that you're going to have to pivot probably round 4 when Diggs is up there. I like the rapport a little bit more. He's intriguing enough to me. I'm not sure that I want a Stephon Diggs on my team this year. So if I am going to go receiver here at the back half of the second round, I'd probably go Nico instead of Drake London is very interesting with who's playing quarterback down there in Atlanta now. So I think I like Nico mainly because I like CJ Stroud throwing to him.
I feel like you're probably drafting Nico almost at ceiling type of play there, right? Like I don't see him being able to drastically outperform this thing. We might see him creep up to wide receiver 10 on the season, but more likely I do think that we see him kind of finishes that fringe wide receiver 1 when it's all said and done, right? Like there's certainly some really good efficiencies. We saw Nico Collins really kind of step up and show what he could do when it came to yards after the catch last season. Really did a good job on with that breakout season there. But they did bring in Stephon Diggs. I do think that could impact the target share here a little bit. And at that point, you're hoping more on efficiencies than volume play at that point. And when I'm drafting a wide receiver in this territory, I want to be looking more at a volume play than necessarily an efficiency play. So I don't know that I'm going to get a whole lot of Nico Collins on my roster. Love the player, just not necessarily loving the draft position where he's coming off the board.